Testing.
Testing. Okay, can somebody give me an update?
All right, good. Thank you.
All right, I hear his voice. Welcome, Mr. Wingate. I'm assuming I can get started. Thank you.
Can you hear us, Mr. Wingate?
Yeah.
I can.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, we're going to get started. Thank you all. We are at the special called meeting of the Fulton County Board of Registration and Elections on July 26, 2022 at 2:30 p.m. We're going to have an agenda that has a call for election, intergovernmental agreements on 4 cities, 3 cities in a school district, and then here, voter registration, voter residency challenge, with the possibility of executive session and then adjournment. Would somebody make a motion to approve the agenda or make any additions?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as stated.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. The motion carries. We are now in the agenda for the new business call for the election, the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Atlanta, City of Fairburn, City of East Point, and the Fulton County School District. Ms. Williams, do you want to just say anything that we need to know about these?
Yes, ma'am. We are seeking approval to place questions on the ballot for the November 8th election from the City of Atlanta for alcohol sales, City of Fairburn for alcohol sales, City of East Point for a city council seat, and for the Fulton County School District homestead exemption. We provided the approved resolutions and seek approval for the IGAs.
Any questions from my colleagues? Mr. Wingate?
No.
Okay. I think we're going to take them all in order if somebody wants to make that motion, all together.
Madam Chair, I make a motion for the calls for elections for the City of Atlanta, the City of Fairburn, the City of East Point, and Fulton County School District.
Is there a second?
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting these, approving these intergovernmental agreements, please say aye.
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 Opposed? There are none. The motion carries. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on now to the voter residency challenge, or challenges, as it were. I want to just make a few things. We've been going through challenges now since January and continue to seek guidance and to try to make sure that we are following the letter of the law in every instance, both respecting the challenges and the challenged. So we're going to do a couple things to try to make sure that what we're doing is consistent and appropriate, because the last meeting was quite long, and we're going to try to be a little more formal about this. Not that we weren't formal at the last one, but we're going to talk about it a bit. So just prior, as soon as I get through talking, we're going to swear in anyone who is here to speak for or against any challenge. By doing this all at once, we can avoid the sort of picking and choosing who's in the audience and swearing everybody in separately. I want to thank Ms. Marshall and her team for the incredible work that they've been doing to meet the code of assisting challengers. It has become quite a lot of work for everybody involved, and so we're going to do a couple of things. One of the things I want to say to those who are bringing challenges is Our staff is not going to respond by email or phone calls to any questions before the challenge meeting about the details of the challenge. They're not going to provide updates. They're not going to provide assistance in sort of improving what's been put forward. We're just going to move forward as the law dictates and operate under that 10 days, and then we will present the challenge, or they will present the challenge to us for our action. So I just want to be really clear about that because it comes up a lot, and our staff have to move into election mode, and they have a lot of work to do right now, and that was extra, and we very much appreciate it, but have asked that that not continue. Let's see. Okay, so we're still getting used to this. The next thing that we're going to do, sorry, I'm just trying to do this. The next thing that we're going to do in terms of our actions, if we find that we are going to accept the challenge, what we're going to do with the voters that fall into that category is move them into pending status with a clear indication of what's pending, either a name or an address change or whatever is appropriate to that particular challenge. Under pending status, those voters can vote provisionally and correct their problem simultaneously. We will investigate all of that as we do with any provisional ballot and then proceed accordingly. So that's how we're going to handle these moving forward. And just to point out that we are not going to be removing anyone from the voting rolls. We will wait instead for the Secretary of State to do that, as is their responsibility. And we know that they'll be purging the voter rolls in November, and I believe they're doing national change of address as we speak. So there will be a lot of actions for them to take and for us to take to continue in that vein. So without further ado, that's a process improvement from our director and the staff and our county attorney, and I just wanted to explain that before we move forward. Without questions or objections, we'll just move into the challenge. Okay. Mr. Frazier, if you want to come forward. Is there anyone else here that wants to speak for or against their name being challenged? Okay, seeing none, we'll just swear in Mr. Frazier then.
Mr. Frazier, you're still under oath. This is a continuation of the second part of your hearing because we started with the first kind of half of your list, but he's under oath from the last time, and we deferred the balance of it to this special call meeting.
Great, thank you. So I will let Ms. Marshall then take us through where we are and provide us direction.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
From the last meeting that we had on July 14th, Mr. Frazier submitted a total of 9 challenges. There were 4 that were outstanding, and those challenges were moved to this special call meeting today. I have reviewed all of the information presented to me by Mr. Frazier, and I have found the following. For the first category, there were 9 voters who did not have valid street addresses, and we sent the notices to those voters last week, notifying them of the problem. The second category, there were 484 voters who were listed as having invalid dates of birth, and we mailed those letters to the voters last week as well. There were 2,012 voters that did not have a valid name, either first or last name, and we mailed notices to those voters. And there were 625 duplicate registration records that we are currently working to resolve and merge. As a result, I recommend that the board find that there is probable cause to sustain the challenge for the above voters in regards to missing address, invalid date of birth, and missing name.
Okay, we do not have the usual sort of summary page that we've been receiving for these unless I don't see it in this packet.
Is that the recommendation? Like the,
Yeah, so I have different spreadsheets on the recommendations, so why don't we take them as we see them? So I'm looking at page 1 of the challenges, that is missing names, which appear to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 voters, is that correct?
Yes.
And your recommendation for those, would you just summarize that for us, please?
so the recommendation is, first off, it is probable cause to sustain the challenge. But what we would like for the board to do is to allow these voters time to update their registration. I know the initial deadline was going to be for some people to respond by August 10th, but I'm asking if we could give these people up until the VR deadline, which is October 11th, to resolve these issues.
Okay, I'd like to hear from our attorney because we haven't discussed it as an option, so,
I thought the reason why we chose the August the 10th date was to make certain that we were in compliance with the federal Voter Registration Act cutoff deadline for making changes to electors on a roll. Is that date different now?
It's just that the August 10th that's the deadline in order to submit challenges, but not make changes. We make changes up until October 11th, which is the VR deadline.
And that's what was not presented to the board at the last meeting. We were working on the date, and you're correct, we were going to vote on the submittals through the 10th on the 11th. And now you're saying that you all have the other date later in October, you said?
We can do until August 11th. It's just that when we mail the notices, if we give them until August 11th, there are a lot of people that are responding, but if they go in and say, for example, they have the invalid date of birth issue, you are still allowed to vote with like the invalid date of birth. So, and it doesn't have to be provisional because we can correct that, in the office. So we were just asking if it could be extended, but if not, then we can still go with August 11th.
let me make a suggestion here. I think what we want to do is apply some consistency to all of these for everyone's benefit. What I would suggest we do, but y'all tell me if I'm misunderstanding the process, is that we vote to sustain the challenge and move all these voters into pending status with an indication that the issue is missing name. They have time to correct that, I'm assuming, right up until Election Day. And you can send them a letter saying that they have been moved into pending status and need to correct their name, and they can do it by X, Y, and Z manner. Is that an accurate way to do this?
Yes.
Okay, is everybody okay with that? I
Yes.
think that's consistent with how we're trying to apply these and kind of move these along.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from the BRE on this particular challenge? Can I get a motion?
Motion to recommend holding off until October.
No, sustain the challenge.
Oh, excuse me.
Sustain the challenge.
Sorry.
Or accept the
Motion to sustain the challenge and move, and hold off until October 11th.
Nope. Motion to sustain the challenge.
That's just it.
And the action will be on the staff part is to move all of these into pending status with the accurate indication of what they need to correct in order to be able to vote, or they will remain on pending status.
Okay.
Well, not right now.
Yeah, and
So just hang on a second.
Motion to sustain the challenge And the action from the department is to send out the letters and have them come back to them by October 11th with the correct
Nope,
information.
nope, nope. Motion is to sustain the challenge. That's that's
That's
all
what-
we need to take from this board is a motion to sustain the challenge.
That's what
A
I did.
second and a
Motion to
vote.
sustain the challenge.
Second.
In favor?
When we're in the middle of a motion, we have to continue the motion to its conclusion. So all those in favor of sustaining the challenge, please say aye.
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 Opposed? There are none. The challenge is sustained for the 9 voters who are missing names, who will be moved to pending status, and they will be required to correct the name problem.
I think those 9, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Marshall, those 9 were missing addresses,
Names,
Names.
names.
yeah.
Name. No,
They're on
the
page-
9 are for missing address.
Well, it says
Okay.
missing names on the piece of paper.
Yeah, it says missing names, and then like, for instance, for somebody Williams, it says no name Williams, no name Mac.
Oh.
And then Ramirez, no name given. At least that's what we have, and that's what we're looking for.
So it'll be 2 different categories for missing name. So there are 9, he submitted them separately. So there are 9 that are missing names. So since we're on the first 9, these are missing name,
Okay, that's what we're going to do.
whether
We're gonna-
first or last.
Yep, we're going to take these one at a time, and I'm going to work from the summary pages that we have from you, not the other things. Okay? All right. Everybody clear? We didn't have this vote yet, right?
No.
We did? Okay. All right. We're through with this action. We've approved the challenge for these particular 9 voters who are missing names, moving to pending status until they either are removed permanently by the Secretary of State or they correct their information. All right, what's the next one we're going to hear? I haven't forgotten you. Just as soon as she tells me what we're working on next.
The next one is invalid date of birth, and there were a total of 484.
Okay, do we have a summary page of that?
I saw it at the bottom. If you look in the corner, if you start on flip through your duplicate registrations, and then you'll get to invalid date of birth.
Okay.
It's 21 of the other one, and then, there you go.
Has everybody found it? Mr. Wingate, you got it?
Yeah, I barely following along with this. I'm not really reconciling any of these numbers.
Well, you got the 9, right?
Yeah, what happened to the other 220?
We're going to hear other challenges. These are 9 particular ones with missing names that we just heard.
Okay.
Okay? So have you
I thought we
located?
had started this at the last board meeting.
Well,
so-
well, we have a new,
All we have back out of that, from the letters that were supposed to be sent at that time, all we had was 9.
no, sir, we have thousands. So
Okay.
you got a new packet from Ms. Robinson.
Yeah, I just got it, so I was trying to scroll down through that quickly, and
Yeah.
it's difficult.
Yeah, so.
But I'm seeing more, let me ask you a quick question here. What I'm seeing on what I was just sent, it looks like most of this is addressing missing addresses. Am I incorrect?
Yes, you are incorrect. So.
Okay, well, just correct you, because what this says under these is missing addresses.
Well, you just have to keep scrolling until you reach
I'm
the,
scrolling, I've scrolled all the way to the end, and it says missing addresses for a bunch of it.
well, we're all looking at about, how many pages? About,
Why am I not looking at the same thing?
I don't know. We're looking at 44 pages that say in the bottom right-hand corner, invalid date of birth, DOB.
Yeah, I see, I haven't counted them, but I see
What
there
starts
is
with,
that
the
section
first
for-
page of those starts as page 1. And it
Yeah,
rolls through
yeah.
to page
That
44.
goes on what I have. The last page of the invalid DOB is page 44.
That's correct.
Okay,
Got it. Okay. Now, Madam Attorney, is it appropriate for the challenger to ask questions at this stage?
Yes, the challenger actually, this is a hearing, and he did not get a chance to make any presentations with regard to the ones we are taking up for consideration today. So he gets a chance to present his information and ask any questions that he might like.
Okay, in my instructions, we had discussed that he was not going to add new information, a new presentation, because this was a continuation.
No, he didn't present on these. Remember, we took up 4.
Oh, okay, okay.
He never presented on these.
The floor is yours.
Just from my understanding, would I be able to, say, speak at each one of these since they're broken up into several different categories?
For the ones we're taking up today, that's
Yes.
correct. That's
Okay.
how we did it the last time. It
Perfect.
would be consistent with that.
Okay, excellent.
Yep, and address those questions to me, and I'll ask her, because she works for me.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll get it all sorted out.
That's all right, we will too.
All right, so on the prior one where I wasn't able to ask a question, my only question is if, for example, the one person is named missing, I like that you're allowing people to update, and if you're missing a first name, absolutely figure out who that is, let them vote. I never want to infringe, but how do you verify missing is the right person if you don't even have a first or last name? I mean, I definitely want them to be able to vote, I just don't know how you tie that together. But maybe you have other
I'll
information
ask
in the
Ms.
system.
Marshall, but I'm presuming a date of birth or other information that is related to that person's ID.
Yes, so what we did was we looked at the address. So we already kind of tried to take a look at who these people possibly are. So if you look at the address and you pull them up in the system, and even if there's 1 or 2 people that are registered at that address, we would then look at the date of birth, even though the letter was addressed to, it was more so like a head of household letter, because the address was on there, but we also included the date of birth and a questionnaire for the voter to fill it out. So we had the address and other information to verify.
Excellent. So it sounds like you can verify and get that cleaned up so they're not being infringed on.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Fabulous. Okay, then I'm good with the first one.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, so we're going to move into invalid date of birth. I'm assuming we're going to kind of move in similar fashion. So Ms. Marshall, you want to take us through this? Everybody good?
So there were 484 voters submitted with the invalid date of birth. What we did was we mailed these voters a letter. Of course, we had their address and their name, and we provided a 2-page letter with the back page being a questionnaire and enclosing a voter registration application, asking them to update their information. And we have received a few people that responded to today's challenge hearing.
Okay, so are those removed from this?
No, not yet, because 2 just walked in, but then they headed up to the office, but Jessica did give me their names. So in order for you guys to make a decision on this one, do you need those 2 names of the ladies?
I'm presuming we can move them to pending status, and
Yeah,
then
'cause-
when you get up to the office and you have their new information, you can correct it, is that right?
Well, yes, when we get upstairs, I'll just process the voter registration applications that they fill out. They will not have to go into pending status because they, answered the letter.
Oh, well then, do we need to take them off this list then?
Yes, and I
Okay, you
have the
wanna say-
names.
Yeah, what are their names?
Thank you, Jessica. One is Ms. Keisha Henderson. Okay. Oh, actually, I do. It's on page 3. I got lucky.
I see it, okay.
And the next one is Ms. Taylor Mosley.
That's the next one, 2 down.
Oh, yep. So with the exception of those 2, so it'll now be 482 names that will have to move into pending invalid date of birth status.
Okay, any questions from the BRE? Looking for a motion that includes, not including Ms. Henderson and Ms. Mosley. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I make a motion for the to
Sustain the challenge.
sustain.
Of 400.
I almost said suspend, but I had to catch myself. Madam Chair, I make a motion to sustain the challenge for the 482 on this list with Ms. Keisha Henderson and Ms. Taylor Mosley not included.
Is there a second?
Second?
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. You good, Mr. Wingate?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The motion carries. All right, next one. What are we going to look at?
Sorry. The next one we have is the 2012 missing name.
Missing addresses, you mean?
Missing a, hold on one second.
Missing addresses. It's got to be missing.
That category, like I said, is, on mine, is called missing.
Missing addresses.
Address.
Yep, missing addresses, okay. I'm just pointing out that duplicate registrations was kind of second in the printout. So in the future, let's try to go in the order that they kind of sit in front of us. It'll eliminate some confusion. All right, talk to us about the missing addresses. Oh, Ms. Fraser, you have anything to add relative to this?
I think my only outstanding question on this is well, let me take a step back. So if somebody is missing a date of birth, are they allowed to vote? Because a lot of these had a voting history. I'm just curious how that happened. I mean, again, everyone should be able to vote, but I don't know if some of these people are 12 years old or what their status is if we never had a date of birth in the system for them.
I'm not sure that that's germane to this hearing. You can certainly,
No, Madam Chair, but the answer to the question is sometimes human error occurs with input from either the Secretary of State's office or our office, and an individual who shows up with a name, driver's license identification, street address, et cetera, can input their date of birth at the polls. They have not been consistently doing that, but that's how they would fix the problem.
May I add something as
Sure.
well? I would like to say about, I can't remember the exact number, I had it written down, but I left it. About 90% of the people with the invalid date of birth, they had no voter participation history, meaning they've never voted. They're just still in the system dating all the way back to 1995.
Yeah, that's about what I saw. I think 87 people had voting history, and those are the ones that I
okay.
was just kind
Let's
of
move
concerned.
into missing addresses.
Mr. Frazier submitted a challenge of 2012 missing addresses. We mailed a letter to these voters on last week as well.
What address do you use?
In speaking with the SOS, and I let the legal team know as well, we have to mail the letter just even if we put, for example, if it's 123 and we can make out the street name, we have to mail the letters and have it come back as return mail to 123 missing address. It's a part of a list maintenance process that is done in the system. So when the mail comes back as return mail, we can go up under list maintenance and tag it as return to sender or the mail was undeliverable. And what happens is it starts an inactive process for removal. So the address that we use is missing address. Whatever information was missing, that's where we mailed the letter to. And we've been getting a lot of return mail and logging it back into the system.
So if we were to sustain this, if you'll look, there's pages and pages and pages of this. There are, most of them have no participation history like the others. So again, they would, if we were to sustain this, they'd move into pending status. One can assume that we won't hear from them. They will be removed by the Secretary of State's office in due time, but would have the opportunity to correct it if they were to show up. Since we haven't had voter participation history for the vast majority of them, one can assume that's not going to happen. And then there are a number that have voted in the last couple of years, but not very many. So, you know, we will go from there. If somebody wants to make a motion, unless there's further comment.
I have a question. What's the time frame for the SOS to work that?
I'll have to get the answer to the deadlines for the list maintenance for return mail.
Oh, I think he, don't let me put words in your mouth, Mr. Wingate, but I'm assuming you mean for the people that are in pending status who don't correct, or do you mean the
Well,
ones that
you
are
know,
just?
you've got, come on, folks, you've got these, from what evidently the count was, 2012 voter records that do not have an address. And it would make some sense that they probably haven't had an address for a very, very long period of time, which means that these files have not been worked for some period of time as it relates to this. So my question is, since they've been around, now we're going back to what I think I'm hearing is another process where you're sending mail to addresses where there is no address, or, you know, a 1, 2, 3, or whatever it is. You have to suspect, I think, logically, that all of that mail is going to be returned. In other
That's
words,
correct.
unless, you know, there's some other definition of missing address that I'm not understanding.
That's correct.
Yes, we're
So
required by
my
code to mail
point is,
Mr. Wingate.
is this going to be one of those situations where in this particular case, just the missing addresses, which is a fairly large number, that those 2012 records are going to remain then on our voter registration list for this upcoming election?
If we make the motion, they will remain in pending status, which means they will not be able to vote, except provisionally if they show up
Okay.
and have the appropriate information that is missing.
Okay,
Right,
so
so if-
okay, good, thank you. So
Yeah.
pending then means that they're fundamentally locked up, but if one of these voters did come in or attempt to vote, they would be made to vote provisionally.
That's correct.
Okay,
And would have to correct their information.
and of course, they would have to do everything to
Madam Chair, the other point
go through the,
that Ms.
through the
Marshall
original
made that
vote.
is important,
Okay,
Mr.
so
Wingate.
Wait. I'm sorry, Mark.
The other point that's relevant, Mr. Wingate, is the fact that without her process of sending the envelopes and the notice out to those addresses and them being returned, there would be no way to activate the process of saying this is an invalid address or a person doesn't have an address. And that allows the Secretary of State's office to go ahead and purge the records. So it's important that we follow the procedures, which is sending out
Right.
2012 letters that are all going to come back, and we'll keep them in the file. And when we change that status in the records, then the Secretary of State's office will be able to remove them.
all right, so we will receive back any of these undeliverable pieces of mail, and then that will then be sorted and submitted to the Secretary of State?
They're going to be sorted and held here, is what I understand, and the coding for that insufficient address or unreturned, undeliverable will go into the database, and that will be the system that the Secretary of State accesses in order to remove the people.
Okay, but the Secretary, what I'm hearing is Secretary of State will actually take the last action to remove those voter records.
That's correct.
Okay,
Okay, can I have a motion?
I make a motion to sustain the missing addresses,
The challenge for
the challenge for the
2012.
2012 missing addresses.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
aye.
Opposed? There are none. The motion carries. Okay, next.
And that should be duplicate registrations.
Mr. Frazier also submitted a list of 625 duplicate records.
Okay, those duplicate registrations for the BRE members, that is on
Thank you.
the page following the missing names page. So if you start your file at page
this.
1 of page 1, it will be the next page. Everybody got it?
Yep.
Okay. What do we need to know about this?
So we would like to thank Mr. Frazier for bringing these duplicates to our attention. In reviewing them, which we have already begun the research, we have found that there are some twins on this list, some juniors and seniors, but they did not have that indicated in the system. So we have already began to merge these records, take a look at them, but these voters will not be placed into the pending status as the other ones will, because these are more so clerical errors that, most of them are clerical errors that we have to resolve. So we are diligently working on that.
So then there is no action that you're recommending we take on these because it's not a challenge issue, it is a...
Do we have to reject it? It's a challenge, so do we have
have
to
to
take an action on it as a challenge?
It is a challenge, and we've said that already, we put it on
Yes.
record. What you can do is to uphold, say there's probable cause, which there is based upon your own staff's research, and then direct the staff to correct the duplicates.
Okay,
They don't have to be put in pending to correct the duplicates. They were already in the process of merging those files, which is a technical term of the two people, so only one person's there. But two people didn't vote, it's just two registration records of record.
And
okay,
that doesn't have to be a motion, just a directive.
it's got to be a motion.
We have to have a motion because we have to take action on the category. And
Oh, okay.
we are sustaining or finding probable cause with regard to the 625 duplicate records.
Okay.
So before you make a motion, can I speak now? So it sounded like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that I should not email Shamira on any questions on this sort of thing, but can maybe now I ask, can I get a copy of the ones that are merged so that way I know who's a junior and senior and don't see that as a flag in the future and I know which ones will be coming off? Is that?
That is not part of the code, Madam
Yeah.
Chairperson.
Right.
This is it. This ends it.
One of the things we're trying to do is keep our staff focused on the list maintenance they need to
Absolutely.
do.
Yes.
And it's gotten quite overwhelming. So you're just going to have to take it, that we are going to make a motion and do whatever we instruct our staff to do.
Right.
But you won't be updated on the specifics of these particular ones, only to know that we've taken this action. Can I get a motion?
So we sustain it
Sustain it.
with direction.
He made a challenge. There are 625 duplicate records, and you're directing the staff to continue their efforts to resolve them.
All right, Madam Chair, I make a motion to sustain the challenge with the directive to staff to go through, continue going through and erasing the duplicates or updating the files.
Is there a second?
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Wingate?
Um,
We're
I
in a
didn't
vote.
hear, do we have any sort of a date that that work will be completed by?
I'm sorry, we're in the midst of a vote, so you can vote against it if you like, or you can vote for it, but this is
I
not the
vote-
time for
then
questions.
I'll
We can
vote
ask a
against.
question at the end of the vote if you care
Okay,
to.
I vote against.
Okay, 3-1 is the vote. Thank you. Motion is carried. Mr. Wingate, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. And again, it's hard for me to hear, and that's my problem, not yours. But my question was, of these 625, I believe, identified duplicate registrations, when is there a time certain on that, when that work will be completed, so we know the status?
Why don't we, maybe I can make a suggestion. The staff doesn't have a complete answer to that because each one of these has to be individually researched. Just from looking at the list that I'm looking at right here, very clear, a lot of these are data entry errors because the names are quite similar but might be off by a letter or something. So each one has to be very, very carefully looked at so that we're correcting correctly as opposed to just merging. So what I would just say is maybe, Ms. Marshall, at the August 11th meeting, you could just give us an update on where you are with this.
Yes, ma'am, will do.
Thank you. Is there anything else?
I have another question, if possible.
Okay.
Do we know what the timing is for the Secretary of State, since it goes to him on the last step? What the timing is that they would complete the process, so that way somebody would come off the rolls if they should come off the rolls?
You can call the SOS to ask them how long it'll take.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, any other challenges? We done? Anything else? Everybody good? All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Good, Mr. Wingate? Motion to
Yep.
adjourn?
Oh, yep,
Thank you.
you're
Carries
adjourning.
unanimously. Thank you. We're adjourned.